Ooh. Whoa, that certainly is.
Tony Beets, known for his no-nonsense ways and huge mining power, has faced many challenges in the Yukon, but nothing prepared people for what was inside his old mining camp. After years of rumors, the urge to uncover the truth grew stronger, and now, what they found was horrifying. What did they really find? Join us as we uncover the details. How Tony built his mining power. Tony Beets did not rise in the gold world by chance. His career grew because he understood machines, studied the land, and acted quickly when opportunities appeared. His early years in mining gave him skills that later helped him become a major operator in the Yukon. He first worked as a machine operator, handling equipment day after day in rough weather. This experience taught him how to fix engines, read ground conditions, and understand how much effort different soil types required. These skills gave him an edge. When a machine broke, Tony did not wait for someone else. He repaired it himself, saving time and money. Many people could run a machine, but very few could repair, rebuild, and improve one the way he could. This practical knowledge helped him rise from worker to owner. Over time, Tony began to acquire mining claims that would later become well known on television. Some of the most important claims he developed include Paradise Hill, Indian River, and Clear Creek. Each site carried its own challenges. The ground was thick in some places and rocky in others. Some areas needed heavy stripping. Still, Tony believed these locations had strong potential. He invested in them, improved them, and slowly built a network of active mining grounds. One of Tony's most unusual methods is his strong interest in dredging. He once spent a very large amount of money, reported as around $1 million, to bring old dredges back to life. These dredges were large, floating structures used in older mining days to scoop and process gold-bearing dirt. Many miners would never risk such a costly project, but Tony believed in the long-term value of dredging. He put money, time, and equipment into restoring these machines because he knew they could move huge amounts of dirt at a steady rate. Tony also prefers to use older equipment that he can rebuild himself. Many of his machines are refurbished units that he and his crew have restored. These projects take effort, but they allow him to control costs and depend less on brand new machinery. By bringing old machines back to strong working shape, he gains tools that he fully understands from top to bottom. This habit has become a signature part of his mining style. A central piece of his operation is again the gold room. Inside, the gold is cleaned using a simple but effective system. It begins with a demagnetizer to remove small magnetic pieces. Then a power washer clears away more dirt. After that, a shaker table helps separate the fine gold from the remaining material. Finally, careful manual cleaning ensures every grain is collected. Tony keeps this room private because accuracy is very important. Only a few trusted people, including his daughter Monica and a close family friend, usually work inside. Tony's mining success is widely recognized. At one point, he recorded a week where the value of the gold he mined reached hundreds of thousands of dollars, counted in American currency. His operations have consistently produced strong results, placing him among the most productive miners in the Klondike region. The hard side of running a mining empire. Tony Beets may be one of the strongest miners in the Yukon, but his work comes with constant pressure. His operation faces rules, repairs, family disagreements, and public criticism. These challenges often shape how he works and how the world sees him. Behind the big machines and bright gold totals, there is a long list of problems that demand attention. A major difficulty for Tony has been dealing with permits and regional rules. Mining in the Yukon requires proper water licenses, and these documents guide how much water a miner can use. In several seasons, Tony had to shut down some plants because his water permits did not arrive on time. When a permit is delayed, he cannot run wash plants, and without water flow, the gold stays in the ground. These breaks in production cost money, create stress, and interrupt his plans. They also limit how quickly he can move from one cut to another. For a miner who operates at a large scale, even a short delay can create a heavy setback. Tony has also faced legal fines for environmental issues. Over the years, he has been ordered to pay tens of thousands of dollars for violations linked to water usage and fuel handling. These fines are public records and have added to his reputation as a miner who sometimes pushes the limits of the rules. Although he continues to follow permit systems, the legal pressure remains part of his work environment. Another difficulty comes from the huge amount of equipment Tony owns. Heavy machines run almost every day during the season, and long hours put stress on engines, buckets, pumps, and tracks. Commentators who watch his operation closely often point out that Tony tends to focus on emergency repairs. Instead of preventive maintenance, which means fixing issues before they become serious, his team usually works on machines only when they break down. This approach can keep machines running in the short term, but it can also lead to sudden failures that stop production. In many of his mining areas, people have noticed what they call machinery graveyards. These are places on his claims where old machines sit unused. They include trucks, excavators, loaders, and other units that are no longer needed or too costly to repair. Former workers and viewers have discussed these sites for years. They show how much equipment Tony has gone through and how large his operation is. These piles of machinery also reflect the rough nature of mining work in the Yukon, where tough land and long seasons wear down even the heaviest units. Inside the company, there are family pressures that influence decisions. Tony runs a family operation, and his children hold important roles. His sons Kevin and Mike and his daughter Monica are deeply involved in the business. As with many family-run operations, there can be disagreements about methods, risk levels, and long-term plans. Online discussions often mention that Tony maintains a strong hierarchy, and his children follow his lead even when they have different ideas. This structure can create tension, especially when younger members feel ready for more responsibility or want to introduce new approaches. At the same time, Tony's public image is shaped by the Gold Rush series. However, many fans believe that the show does not reveal the full size of his operation. They suggest that Tony owns more equipment, handles more ground, and operates on a larger scale than what is shown on television. This belief adds a layer of mystique as people try to imagine the full reach of his mining empire. There are also discussions about how much of the show represents real mining work. Some viewers argue that parts of the program simplify or dramatize the process. They say certain scenes are structured to make the story clearer for television. These critiques do not confirm that anything is false, but they do raise questions about what viewers see versus what actually happens behind the scenes. These challenges, rules, repairs, internal pressure, and public debate show that running a major mining company is never simple. Tony deals with them season after season while trying to keep his operation strong. And now the question becomes clear. If all these pressures kept building, how did they affect his older camps and the areas he no longer works today? The claims that faded and the camps left behind. Tony Beets has worked across many parts of the Yukon, but not every site remains active forever. Some areas face permit delays, ground changes, or high costs. Others simply become less productive. These shifts have created speculation about decline, redirection, and the abandoned camps connected to his long career. A major cause of slowdown in certain areas has been licensing problems. A clear example is the Indian River claim. In some seasons, Tony was unable to mine there because he did not have the required water license. Without that license, he could not run his wash plants or move forward with stripping and digging. Water rights are essential in the Yukon, and losing them, even for a short time, can shut down an entire site. For a miner with a large operation, this risk is always present. Water struggles appear in several seasons for Tony. Because his plants require strong water flow to process dirt, any restriction forces the work to stop. These interruptions push him to move equipment to other claims or pause production entirely. It also means he must rely more heavily on his other active grounds. These patterns have led some observers to wonder whether certain claims are still valuable enough to support long-term work. Another part of Tony's mining world involves abandoned or dormant sites. In one clip, Tony revisits a claim that had not been touched for roughly 3 decades. The area had old ground, untouched cuts, and signs of early mining days. This visit showed how much land he has access to and how many places remain unworked. It also highlighted the number of opportunities he has postponed because of resources, manpower, or permit limits. Across his properties there are also collections of old equipment. These machinery piles include excavators, bulldozers, wash plant parts, and trucks that are no longer used. Some were damaged, others became too costly to rebuild. These sites are often called equipment graveyards, and they show the long history of his mining work. Each machine once played a role but is now left behind as the focus shifts to newer grounds. Some people think Tony may be scaling back certain operations or changing direction rather than abandoning mining entirely. These ideas come from reduced television coverage of some areas and from the noticeable lack of maintenance on older machines. While these views are not confirmed, they reflect a growing belief that he might be directing more attention toward only his richest claims. This shift would not be surprising for a miner who always wants efficiency and strong returns. A major part of this change may involve succession. Tony's children, especially Kevin and Mike, are taking on larger roles in the company. They handle machines, coordinate crews, and manage daily tasks. This could mean that Tony is preparing the next generation to handle more responsibility. A generational shift often leads to new styles and different goals, which can influence how many claims remain active. These patterns, permit losses, old infrastructure, shifts in focus, and the rise of younger family members, create a picture of a mining empire that is adjusting to new conditions. Some areas fall quiet while others take priority. But one question remains for anyone who watches Tony's shifting sites. What exactly was left behind in those old camps, and what did people find when they finally returned to explore them? The hidden shaft beneath the old camp. The old mining camp on Tony Beets' land had stood untouched for many years, forgotten under layers of dirt, rust, and Yukon weather. It was a quiet place, a part of his property that hardly anyone spoke about, mainly because it no longer served any purpose in modern mining. But everything changed when his team uncovered a hidden shaft buried under old timber and soil. The opening was crooked, dark, and strangely cold. It looked nothing like modern mining tunnels. It looked older, rougher, and clearly built with tools far simpler than anything used today. This hidden shaft appeared in episodes of Gold Rush, and it surprised even Tony. Its shape, the wooden supports, and the worn edges suggested that it was created long before heavy equipment reached this part of the Yukon. It belonged to the early miners who came to the region during the pioneer Gold Rush years. Those miners worked with shovels, picks, lanterns, and determination. They dug deep into frozen ground, not for comfort, but out of hope. The discovery showed that these early miners had reached this land long before Tony bought the claim. The shaft's age was the most striking part. The wood around the entrance was faded and splintered. Some pieces had almost turned back into soil. Its depth was not measured publicly, but it was clearly far deeper than anything a modern miner would create without proper tools. The dark space below made it impossible to know how far it went without taking serious risks. The walls showed signs of long-forgotten work, marks from hand tools, uneven cuts in the earth, and old support beams that leaned sideways. Everything about the place felt fragile. This made the discovery both valuable and horrifying. Old shafts like this one are extremely dangerous because they can collapse without warning. The ground around them becomes unstable. The air inside can be unsafe. There could be hidden pockets, rotting beams, or sudden drops. Nothing about it is predictable. Many early miners lost their lives in holes like this, so seeing one still open is a reminder of how tough those years were. No modern safety rules existed during those pioneer days. People simply dug and hoped. But the shaft was not just a danger, it was also a piece of history. It showed how far miners had gone even with little equipment. It proved that this land had been worked long ago, meaning they believed it had promise for Tony. That hint of old activity can be a sign of gold in the deeper layers. Pioneer miners usually followed promising signs, so if they dug here, it likely meant they had found something worth chasing. Tony approached the discovery with the same calm, practical mindset that defines him. He does not get emotional easily, but he understands opportunity when he sees it. An old shaft can reveal old pay layers, lost trails of gold, or unexplored pockets. but he also knows the risk. Entering such a place without full safety checks could put lives in danger. His goal is always to move forward while keeping control, and a discovery like this must be handled carefully. Because Tony is secretive with the important parts of his mining operation, especially his gold processing area, it was no surprise that he restricted access to the shaft. Only a few trusted people were allowed near it. He needed to study it, decide if it was worth reopening the ground around it, and protect others from harm. The Yukon landscape is full of old mining scars, but this one was different because it lay on ground he owned and worked. The discovery also left viewers curious. What else could be hidden under the untouched parts of his claims? And the biggest question is simple. What does a discovery like this mean for the future of Tony's operation? Trouble, opportunity, or both? Legacy and the questions left behind. The discovery of the old shaft brought a wave of attention, interest, and concern. For Tony Beets, the impact was personal and practical at the same time. On one hand, it hinted at hidden value in the ground he had mined for years. On the other hand, it added new pressure. Historic shafts come with serious responsibilities. They are part of the land's past, and they demand careful handling. For Tony's family, especially his children, who now help run major parts of the operation, the discovery added new questions. If the old ground carries hidden risks, who will be in charge of dealing with them as Tony grows older? Kevin and Mike already manage large equipment fleets, and Monica works closely with him during the season. The shaft reminded everyone that mining is not just about machines and gold. It is about navigating danger, history, and long-term plans. A family business can pass from one generation to another, but the challenges do not disappear. They simply change shape. There are also environmental and historical issues to think about. Old shafts can reveal how early miners shaped the land. They sometimes show the rough methods used many years ago, methods that would not meet modern standards. These pioneer miners often worked without rules that protect rivers, soil, and wildlife today. Their abandoned tunnels, pits, and channels still affect the land. When a modern miner like Tony finds these places, it raises a question. Should they be preserved as pieces of history, or should they be removed to make the area safer? Some people argue that such sites have historical value because they tell the story of early gold hunters who built the mining culture in the Yukon. Others believe that leaving old shafts open is risky and makes it harder to manage the land responsibly. Tony must balance both sides. He works for profit, but he also wants to keep his operation safe and within the rules. This balance is not always simple. There is a legal side as well. When a miner discovers a historic shaft, authorities might require inspections or new permits. Safety teams may need to check the structure. Environmental officials may need to look at the site. These steps can slow down work and bring extra costs. For a miner who already deals with water permits, seasonal deadlines, and heavy expenses, the discovery of a historic shaft can become both a blessing and a burden. Ethical questions also come into play. Is it right to disturb a place that may hold historical importance? Should the remains of early miners' work be left untouched as part of Canada's mining heritage? And if a modern miner decides to explore or clear out such an area, what level of care should be required? This is why the discovery at Tony's old camp leaves a lasting effect. It forces everyone, miners, viewers, and officials, to think about the meaning of old ground mining is not only about chasing new gold, it is also about facing the marks left by those who came before. The Yukon is full of stories carved into the land itself. Some of those stories are inspiring, others are frightening. This shaft falls in the second group. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.